All right. So here we are, our third class of the Conscious Discipline series, where we are learning some skills and some tools that help us stay in our brilliance, our prefrontal cortex, where we have access to those executive skills that that we've talked about, and thus our brilliance. This is all based upon conscious discipline, Dr. Becky Bailey, and presented by myself, Kimber Ball. I'm an instructional coach with the Anchorage School District. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for being here. So a brain smart start is something that conscious discipline uses to support being ready to take in information, being ready to be present. And so a brain smart start consists of a uniting moment, disengaging stress and calming our brain so we're ready to learn, and connecting how we are all similar at some level, and a commitment to the moment, a commitment to the future. Depends on how you want to approach it. We do this with kids in a variety of ways, through song and dance and pictures of themselves and their friends to connect them, touching activities, things like that. With adults, we do it a little bit differently, although I've had adults doing all kinds of fun games when we're together. But tonight, if you would like to tell us your name or tell us why or what you want to learn in terms of conscious discipline, what has resonated with you if you've been with us, what maybe I haven't touched on that you want to hear about. So again, you could interject by unmuting. You could put that in the chat when you have time and we could reflect on that. But thank you for being here. So tonight, to disengage stress, we are going to quickly look at the 4 tools that conscious discipline uses to support calming and to support if we're anxious or if we're nervous or if we're thinking about other things. Again, just supporting us to move up in our brain, up into the top here where we're really ready to take in as much as we can. So the 4 tools are represented in the pictures here. The star we've done once before through a song, but it is smile, take a deep breath, and relax. When we do this, we try to do it 3 times. That really helps integrate both sides of the brain as well as bring us up in the brain. The balloon is a breathing in and blowing up the balloon, and then a long exhale. And kids like that one because they like to make that sound with their lips. If you're doing it close to your child or another child, be careful of what might come out of those lips. So again, 3 times to really engage the different sides of the brain, integrating the whole brain. The drain, teachers and folks often use to kind of drain out any frustration or anger, or just the idea of letting it go and draining it out of your body. So we'll put our hands out and so that long exhale obviously causes us to then breathe in at the same time or after we exhale. So the last one is the pretzel, and it's a little bit harder for kids to do, but any form of crossing the midline. So when we cross our arms, we cross the middle of our body. This action actually, again, helps integrate both sides of the brain, both parts of the brain, all the parts of the brain. And so with kids, sometimes this is enough. is just crossing their arms. If they're standing or sitting, crossing your legs. But if we can ultimately get our thumbs up, cross our, cross our wrists, flip our hands, and then bring them together. Let me do that again. Cross our wrists with our thumbs up, flip our thumbs down and bring our fingers together, and then bring it up under. Bring it up under. Thumb here, tongue on the roof of your mouth. All of this while breathing 3 times. So choose one that you might want to do. Three times. To bring us to this present moment. Often when we're coming together in groups, it's an unknown, you know, and so there, even if it doesn't feel like we're anxious, or that you feel like your kids are good to go, they can handle it. Just doing a little bit of breathing can help soothe that brain. So a way to connect tonight might be for you to tell us how you calm. We teach kids to use these breathing tools because we always have our breath with us, right? We can always fall back on just taking some deep, calming breaths. Yet, as we think about our homes and creating a place where we might go to calm, a safe place or a calming place, what would we put in there? What really calms me as an adult compared to what calms my child? So again, prompting you to unmute and tell us how you calm, or to pop that in the chat if you'd like, as a way for us to connect.
I'll share, Kimmer.
Thanks.
One of the things right now, especially my family celebrates Christmas, and so with the holiday season coming up, having like the twinkle lights on and just being able to kind of have quiet and sitting just with the twinkle lights on my tree and around my house. And then on whenever I was in college, my friends got me this Yule log DVD. So it's like a video of a fireplace. And so I put that on my TV, and it's like the crackling sound. And for me, just having that moment to like do some deep breathing, but like the ambiance is really relaxing to me. And just being able to pause, like Janine says in the chat, just being able to pause is really important.
Thank you, Anne. All right. And so the last part of a Brain Smart Start is to support the commitment to the moment. And for us as adults, that's the agenda. For kids, that might be, you know, your visual routine for the day, what you're going into next, and asking them to keep it safe or to be helpful. Oftentimes supports your rules or your values. But tonight for us, the commitment is simply to review our agenda, which I've put here. We'll move through and review the brain states quickly. We'll talk again about the 7 powers and those skills that go along with it. And we'll then talk about and put those pieces into action through language and a way to support kids to move up. We've talked about it a bit. We'll reinforce that. And then we'll look at some helpful tools. I pulled a piece on tattling because I know that we have had kind of older kids, but even, you know, that classic kindergartner, you know, that comes into school the first day wanting to do their best, and their best includes tattling. So we'll do a little piece there, and then I'm hopeful to end with some conscious comedy. So hopefully you're willing to stick with us and commit to that agenda. All right. So we've talked a lot about the brain, but it is the crux of our ability to be responsive to our children. It's the crux of being able to calm ourselves, and be the best selves that we can be in that brilliance, be where we ideally want to be, in that best state of mind. Yet, as adults, and we know for our children, sometimes it's not that easy. Life throws us curves, and we have triggers. And so this is super important, that we recognize when we are in our survival state, when we're wondering, are we safe? What's going to happen next? Are our children in this state? And remembering that if they are, or if you are, if I am, then I'm not probably talking. I'm totally shut down. I might be fighting, flighting, or freezing, that basic fundamental state, which we need to stay safe, but it's not conducive to problem solving or making positive choices. We're in survival, we'll do what we need to survive, and that often doesn't feel safe to be in that state, and thus they're wondering, am I safe? And for us as adults to then support them to know that they are safe by being present and being connected. And we've talked about that connection piece that then helps us to move up into our emotional state, where we wonder, are we loved? Because that's our CD-ROM, that's our history, right? And even for little children, they have a CD-ROM also of their past experiences. And that's what we respond to or react to, is our past experiences. And here in the emotional state, where there's memory and language and feelings, that's where we wonder, am I loved? Am I connected to you? Do you care? And as we realize that we are loved, that we are important, we are seen, we can move up to our prefrontal lobes, executive state, where then we can problem solve and make good choices. We can learn and move forward. So that green, big area there is where we want to get to. And why? Woo! Because it's the optimal place for learning, where our heart's open, our mind is open, we feel confident and competent. We can bounce back from the negative, be okay with those setbacks, and where we find our purpose. All right. So this is the start of the 7 powers and their associated skills. So the power of perception allows us to either be out of control, because we look at something and we go, oh my gosh, are you kidding? Or we get composed. We use the skill of composure to calm so that we can be responsive instead of reactive. And so our perception and how we perceive things in the moment, whether it triggers us all the way down or into our emotional state, that's our stuff, right? Nobody can make us angry without our permission, so that's what this is about. And it's about adults in particular being responsible for their own upset, and then being able to teach our children to be responsible for their own upset and what to do with that upset. We then want to think about the power of attention, and where do we put our energy? Where do we put our focus? What do we see? What do we see our children doing? What do we see our significant others doing? Is it the negative? And unfortunately, the human condition, oftentimes we do perseverate on the negative. And when we do that, we get more of it. So the idea of having our attention be more on positives and noticing the positive things that are happening, to reinforce those. And really making sure that our kids understand what we want from them, making sure that they know what's next, creating those images and those visuals that really support that focus. This is what I want you to do next. Here's a picture of that so that you can follow through and do that. And the idea that we use assertiveness and assertive language to make things happen versus honey, the passive, honey, do you think you could clean up your room? Or if you don't clean up your room, that aggressive side. So we want to try to stay in the middle and just be matter of fact. It's time to clean up your room. Do you want to do that with your door closed, or would you rather have your door open? What's best for you? And offering that choice, but that assertive language is really important to support what you want them to do. While positively noticing through encouragement. The power of unity, the fact that we're all in this together. We're a family, we're a school family, we're a home family, we're a family with our friends. You know, we are all in this together, and to really have that that compassion, that understanding of each other and our needs, and that we can encourage each other. We can use the skill of encouragement to really support ourselves to be the best we can be. The power of free will and the skill of choice. The only person you can change is you. So I can't change my kids' behavior through force and fear. And I can try, but it's not as successful, that aggressive forcing or enforcement. It's not as successful as that intrinsic, that internal free will and choice of, I'm going to make a good choice. I'm going to do something that's helpful. We want to create an environment where they are willing to make the right choice for their family, for their community, and not through fear and intimidation, but rather through their own choice. The power of acceptance through the skill of empathy. In order to support ourselves, to move out of our, to move up out of our brainstem of fear, out of our emotional center, and up where we can be the best parent we can be, or be the best spouse we can be, we have to accept that it is as the moment is as it is. And to struggle with that and to fight with that, it only kind of continues the negativity and the problem, versus just accepting the moment as it is, trying to understand through empathy, so that you then move up in your brain. That soothes our brain to have that empathy so that we can start to move up. Positive intent is the skill that supports the power of love. So I felt it was important to go over these powers and skills before we start talking about how to really support kids to come up out of their brainstem, because they trigger us. They make us mad when they do those things, right? And we need to have all these powers and skills in order to see their intent, in order to love them, and to see their intent, to see that their behavior, that negative behavior, is really their way of communicating their needs to us. And so if we can go, oh, positive intent. You're doing that because you need this, or you're doing that because you don't know how to do it any other way. If I can get there through positive intent and that power of love and seeing the best in you, then that will help me, my brain, to soothe as an adult, and then I can be in my brilliance when I respond to you. So again, I can respond to you in a conscious way versus a less conscious way. And lastly, there's the power of intention and the skill of consequences and how we deliver consequences, when and why. And the fact, and what is our intention? Like, why do we feel the need to give consequences? And when I ask that question of adults, often it is to then change behavior, right? We want you to stop doing that. So we're, maybe it's the SWAT. That's just first the thing that came to mind, right? So the consequences is the SWAT, so that maybe you'll remember that and you won't do that behavior next time. And what conscious discipline supports is you did that behavior. First of all, like, why? Where were you in your brain when you did that? Were you even conscious of what you were doing, or were you just reactive? What was your intent? What did you need? What were you trying to get? And then how can I help you to get that? In other words, my intention is to teach you how to get your needs met without being socially unacceptable or naughty, right? So my intent is, when there's a mistake, I see that as an opportunity to teach you. That is the consequence, is that it's a teachable moment. And for my kids as teenagers and young adults, that is a consequence, because that leads to a family meeting, right? Where we talk about what can we do different? How can we change this chore list so that you are responsive to it, right? So the consequence is that learning opportunity, and that being our intent.
This is Jadon chiming in. Before you moved on, I just had a question of how you handle it when people intend to injure others. Like, right. What of these tools do you work on to make it? Because it's really challenging when some people are feeling unsafe and you're working on intentions, and people are like, I did intend to hurt them. That's what I wanted to happen. Like, where do you go?
Right. So absolutely, that there are situations like that where people have every intent of being hurtful. And so there's a lot of work to be done there, in the sense of starting, like, that person is very disconnected from their community, from that individual that they want to hurt, right? There's no empathy there. There's no sense of caring, likely. And so when we are in that when we need to hurt somebody else, when we need to make somebody else suffer, that is our own reaction to our own state of feeling unsafe, or being in a state of fear. I'm hitting to keep you at bay, potentially, because I don't feel safe, or I'm hitting because my memory is telling me that I need to keep you away. So the kids, and I'm going to say kids because that's who I work with mostly, the kids who are in that state and they're pushing away, fighting away, pushing away, are the ones that have the biggest need for connection, for empathy and understanding. And they likely aren't getting those needs met. And so they're fighting. And so in the moment, of that fight, you have to consider safety for everybody, right? My biggest job as a teacher and a parent is to keep us safe. That's my job, is to keep me safe, to keep you safe. And your job is to keep it safe also. So the bottom line is safety and creating a moment of safety. And that's it. And so oftentimes when something really, really like scary like that happens, we want to fix it. We want to stop it. We want to fix it. And yet, oftentimes what the best thing we can do is to simply, which is not simple, soothe the brain of the adult first, so that then I can soothe the brain of the child through being present, maybe from a little bit afar, so I don't get spit on or kicked, right? I don't get hurt because I'm keeping it safe. So I might be here, but I'm making bids. I'm throwing lifelines. Like, are you ready to come out? Are you to come up, right? And again, we'll talk about how to bring folks up, ourselves and our kids. There's all that needs to happen before they're here, and then we can talk about maybe consequences, like how to fix it, how to make it better. They got to be up here first. And what unfortunately happens is we stay in the brainstem, or they're still here in all that emotion and memory and language, right? And some stuff goes in that we're saying and asking of them, but it's all mixed up in there. So again, we got to keep moving them up to where we recognize that they're not in this state anymore. Their brain is soothed enough and calm enough, they can then have a conversation, even a 4-year-old, even a 14-year-old, about what happened and what next. And oftentimes not even what happened. That's a trigger, and that language of what happened we try to do away with, because it just keeps us here in the story, right? So something happened, it happened, and what next?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, the magic pill, right? We wish we had a magic pill. And in conscious discipline, your magic pill is connection. That's as close as it gets, is connection to calm. Through that, magic can happen. Many of our kids live in their brainstem and in their emotional state. They very rarely make it up to their prefrontal cortex because they're so involved here. And that's where they need to be to survive in many instances. Okay, whoops, I went right past that. So I'm pushed through some of this content, just reinforce some concepts, but here we go. So 4 brain smarts principles is the brain is pattern seeking, big time. So routine, important. If you change the routine, let them know ahead of time. Make that routine visual, even for older kids. If they're stuck and they can't do something, think about a visual. Think about a pattern. The best exercise for the brain is exercise. We've got to move. If we're not moving, there's no oxygen up here, right? And so we have less capacity. Connections on the outside build connections on the inside. Data suggests, research suggests that again, it's the ability to be calm and soothed so that our brain can function at its highest level and make those connections. the brain functions optimally when we feel safe. So again, calming that brain, feeling safe in the moment allows me to make all those connections, to file things in a place where then I can retrieve them. Many of our children that are in a state of trauma, they cannot retrieve information because when it went in, it went who knows where, because their brain wasn't organized. They weren't in a place where they could file that away appropriately. So the brain is pattern seeking. Mentioned routines, super important, and predictability. The idea about exercise and that we do need to get outside and do things that bring our heart rate up and increase our oxygen levels. Connections on the outside, build neural connections on the inside, and create willingness. I mean, think about it. If you're not willing to do something, that's like putting the brakes on, right? Digging your heels in. To create willingness, we need to be connected. We need to care. And that impulse control. So that hitting is sometimes, it's a lack of just being able to control that hit. It's just automatic. Versus if we're connected and calm, we have more control over our impulses. Those 4 pieces are really important, even if it's just for a tiny bit of time. That idea of getting down on their level or bringing them up to your level so that you're making eye contact, you're touching, and you're present with them. Even if everybody else is like vying for your attention, be present, even for that little tiny moment, and do something playful. Again, it can be very short. It doesn't have to be elaborate. And then at first, if you really want to build connection quickly, you do it more often, right? Frequency. And you do it for a longer period of time. Duration. If we want to change behavior, it's about frequency and duration. So do it more, do it longer. And then as they start to soothe, you'll notice, I don't have to do it as much. Put it into that pattern so that your child can predict, I get my moment with my mommy right after lunch, and I get my moment with my daddy right before bed, right? So they know that soothes their brain. They will wait. They will wait to misbehave, or they won't misbehave because they'll know that you're going to be there. And that we can then shift our perspective, our perception, and our response from a control, I got to control this, to I got to connect, right? So that kid that hit, my discipline, my traditional discipline from my family upbringing was, I got to stop that. I got to control that, right? That's scary. You just hurt your friend. Yes, we got to stop that. Yet my approach, since I've learned these skills, is my approach is more connection versus being scared myself of what just happened. It's more I soothe my brain first so I can go in with empathy and acknowledging the moment as it is and trying to connect. Otherwise, that kid's not going to hear me. Not going to feel safe. Okay? So we want to respond from our higher centers. As a parent, this is all you take from this 3 series. That the power of the pause. To stop, to breathe. If that means you have to leave your child to kick and scream, oh well. Hopefully you want to be safe, right? But then you got to go, because at that moment, if you're in your brainstem as a parent, you are not safe, right? We can be hurtful when we're in our brainstem or in our emotional center. We can be hurtful because of our old CD-ROM. So we have to pause and breathe so that we can respond to our children and not react. So that we create self-discipline in ourselves by breathing and coming up, so that then we can support our children to be conscious of their own brain state and their responses and conscious discipline, where our brilliance resides. But remember, these executive skills that exist up here in our prefrontal cortex, that they take 24 plus years to mature. So while we see that some kids do have access to their memory and their recall at a young age, other parts of the skills, other skills are harder to access, and we need to practice them. So again, the thought that we have to be composed, use our assertive language so that we don't feel threatened ourselves, or we don't like boo-hoo, poor me, the world isn't going my way, but rather we can be assertive through our relaxed alertness, through our integrated state. So then we can encourage our kids, we can offer them choices, we can have access to our executive skills. So these are the skills: attention, being able to be attentive, having time management, organizational skills, being able to prioritize things, having a working memory, having even empathy, being able to achieve a goal. These are executive skills that we're working on throughout our lives and practicing. And when we're in our lower centers of our brain, things go wrong. You know, we're late all the time, or we can't find anything, or we make mistakes. You know, we do. You know, we might hit somebody, or we might not have any goals and feel like we don't have a purpose. And so, again, operating in our prefrontal lobes and practicing these really high-level skills is what part of our job is as adults and moving into adulthood. There's that trigger sound. So again, when we're stressed, we don't have access to all that brilliance. And so we need to figure out what pushes our buttons, what causes us to go down into our brainstem, so that we can have empathy for our own selves, right? Know that, you know, that, yeah, we aren't perfect either. And yet if we know that, like for me, spitting, even when my son spits on the ground, that just really unnerves me. And so don't spit in front of me kind of thing, that triggers me. But when I know that and he spits, now I can breathe and I can be assertive and say, you know, I'd like you to go clean that up because somebody's going to step on that and walk it into their, you know, whatever, right? I can be assertive. Whereas when in the past, when he would trigger me and I'd spit, anger would come out. It's like, oh, you know, and so we have to have empathy with ourselves. We have to see that positive intent so that we can move up and give those more appropriate consequences and have those conversations.
Hey, Kim, we're at 6:45.
All right, we got to push through all of this then. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I'm going up instead of down. All right, so we've talked a lot about active calming. And this is where we want to go after we've calmed, or this is how we can calm ourselves, right? Is taking those deep breaths, using affirmations with kids, with ourselves. I am safe. I can handle this. And wishing well. Conscious Discipline, Becky Bailey really believes in an energetic wishing well, and that can be impactful to people's consciousness. But the idea also of mirror neurons and that face, if I look like that, then that's the response I'm going to get back. And so presenting with a mirror of what we want to see is often helpful. All right. Okay, I'm going to push through. We have talked about all of this. I just wanted to reinforce some of this, like the act of giving choices. Once kids have moved up into their prefrontal cortex, by you notice, oh, yep, something happened, and then you wish that you could have played for longer, then we give 2 positive choices. And the importance of phrasing them in a positive way is important to keep that brain soothed. As soon as we say something negative, like you don't do that, do this, that starts to shut them down, shut our brain down again. So we say things in a positive way, even if it's not what I want to do. I don't want to do either one of those things, but you said them in a positive way, kept my brain soothed, so I'm willing to consider one of those choices. And sometimes with choices, we might have to offer another choice. You know, two might not be enough. We've talked about this assertive voice versus passive and aggressive. I'm going to push through all of this. So again, I've taken 2 solid weeks of conscious discipline training. And I've taken other trainings for conscious discipline. Don't feel like you got to understand it all or take it all in to be able to move forward, because there's just a ton of content. But I want to get us to to some tattling, because this piece is often helpful to families. So there are 3 types of tattling that conscious discipline recognizes. One is intrusion, one is safety-based, and one is revenge. So the type 1, intrusion, where a child is saying, teacher, Johnny did something to me. Johnny poked me, right? And so I'm sorry, that's revenge. I put these words wrong. So this revenge one, I'm sorry, is this first example. So Johnny hurt me, right? He did something, or Mary just told on me. And so I'm telling on her too. So they're trying to get their friend maybe in trouble, right? Okay, just a minute. I'm getting confused here. Let me start over. So 3 types of tattling. Intrusion is where they're saying, somebody did something to me, and so our response is, oh, okay, did you like it? If you didn't like it, go tell your friend, I didn't like that, do this instead. And often we have to go with them to support that, their ability to say that to their friend and to give them that language. But we're trying to support them not to feel powerless, but to feel like you can solve this problem. So it's those little problems, and they're just kind of poking at you, and making a big deal out of nothing. So our response can be, oh, okay, well, did you like it? No, you didn't. So go tell them and ask them to do this instead. The safety one is, we need to be responsive to a safety type of plea. My friend just fell off of the climber, and Aaron pushed him. So I need to be responsive to that, because it's a safety concern. So I'll go and I'll take care of that. So if it's a safety tattling, we're responsive and we go and be helpful. The revenge one is sometimes gets mixed, obviously, with intrusion. and so either, sometimes you can mix them in terms of your response too. So, but usually you get this sense that, oh, you're telling on your friend because you want to get him in trouble. So it's usually rule-based, like, Sarah wasn't nice to me. She told me I couldn't go to her birthday party. Oh, so are you telling me to be hurtful or helpful? And then they're like, oh, okay. Well, helpful, teacher. I'm a helpful kid. Oftentimes they'll say, I want to be helpful, right? And so you'll say, oh, okay, well, if you want to be helpful, then you could go and tell your friend, that hurt my feelings when you said I couldn't go to your party. So the revenge is, oh, you're trying to get your friend in trouble. Are you being hurtful or helpful? If you want to be helpful, then do this. The tattling, the traditional tattling, is that intrusion where they're just feeling like the victim. I need you to help me, Mom. No, I don't think you need me to help you. You got this. You didn't like it, so go tell him you didn't like it. So getting those patterns, those patterned language responses into your psyche, into your way of responding. Safe place. Some people call it a quiet spot or a calm place. It can be in a bag. You can take it with you. It can be in your bedroom. It can be one thing that is your quiet, safe spot. Or it can be super elaborate and have lots of options. It's really what calms you as a family. Is this a family place? And then you have some individual places where basically it's where you go to calm. It's where you go to regulate what you're going to do next. It's not a naughty place, a timeout place, in the sense of you go there for a consequence. Remember, it's the consequence in conscious discipline is an opportunity to learn. So if I want to suggest, oh, maybe you might want to go to the safe place, that's where you can then practice and learn how to calm. Okay, so they're doing something to calm, to soothe their brain, so then they can move forward as a consequence. So we went through the breathing tools. Glad we took an opportunity to do that. You have these with you either in the mail or actually in your hands. And what I would encourage you to do is have them handy and play with them throughout the day, maybe targeted times like before bedtime or when you wake up. Use them before you need them. Use them and teach them, and talk about when you might use them, so that then when you need to use them, they're accessible and you don't have to teach in the moment. Same with these helpful phrases. These have been sent to you in both small and large format. And so encourage you to put these in places where you think they might be helpful. You might notice the colors. The red is what you might say when your child is totally shut down. Your hands are going like this, your face is going like this, and as soon as they look up, you breathe. There you are. Something happened. They're in their emotional state, hopefully, because you've acknowledged and noticed them, then something happened. You wanted to keep playing, or you wanted mommy not to have a meeting tonight. When you want something, say or do that. And then as your parent, I can try to be responsive. Again, we might not always be able to give them exactly what they want, but when we feel and when we know that we've been heard, our brain stays soothed and we're more willing to accept the things we don't want to accept. The purple phrases are those positive noticings. You did it. You. Notice the you versus the I. I liked it when you did that. Then they please us. That's external versus you did it. That's their ownership. They're responsible for their behavior, right? They're doing it for themselves so that they're good people. And that's what we want to reinforce. You did it. You moved over so your friend could sit next to you. You shared that toy so your friend could play with you. You did it. Very subtle difference, but it makes a difference for kids. Conscious Discipline sells these routine and responsibility cards. They sell a lot of stuff, and I'm not promoting that the sale, yet I am promoting the routine aspect, right? And that it's super important to create. If you want your kids to do something and they're not doing it, if you can have a visual to support them, that will be helpful. And if they can see really what you expect. Here's some developmental chores. So we can be giving kids chores at 2 and 3 years old. And, you know, it's important that I have that as a part of the family, the school family, the family, I am helpful. I am a part of this family. So I have to do some stuff to maintain our family. Chores and jobs are important. Here's the routine, and lots of resources out there, pictures and stuff. So don't struggle with trying to create routines. Reach out and find those resources. I'm available. Sleep. This is about sleep. Sleep is huge, just like food. You know, when our kids are misbehaving, is it basic needs? Are they well fed? Have they gotten enough sleep? And then I threw this parent chart in because we do need to take care of ourselves. You know, we do need to think about what we need to not only calm, but to feed ourselves so that we have the ability to be resilient and bounce back when our kids say those not nice things to us or do things that we're like, are you kidding me? All right. Oops. I like this quote. Every day, in 100 small ways, our children ask, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do I matter? Their behavior often reflects our response. So if we're not responsive, if we ignore or dismiss, or just try to fix it even, then they feel less heard and their behavior shows that, you know, and it's often challenging or negative. So lots of ways to encourage and to notice our kids, lots of lists out there to help us and to encourage our kids. All right, so this is where I really wanted to get, which is this conscious comedy skits, Managing Emotional Mayhem, on YouTube, accessible to all. We only have time to watch 1, maybe 2, and I would encourage you to go back maybe and watch another or share with others, because they're very poignant. They really hit the mark, and yet they're funny. So we're going to watch one. And then I think we'll stop and open things up for questions. And so this is going to take us over by about 5 minutes. So hopefully you can stay with us.
Mom, what's wrong, honey? Mom, what's wrong? Oh my gosh, what's wrong? What happened? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? Tell me. Tell me. The hamster died? Wait, what were you doing? What were you doing? Were you playing with it? What did you do, honey?
So let me preface this a little bit. So on the left is Becky Bailey and one of her coaches. And they are going to take us through like 3 different scenarios. One is saving. So right now she's going to save her, and the another is to ignore or be dismissive, and And then the other is to actually coach and to help her through it. So we'll
Oh my gosh, how could you let the hamster die? Charlie died. We'll get another one. We'll get you another one. You know what? I know exactly who's got more, okay? But we have to get another one. We have to do this. We have to get another one. I'm going to fix this for you. We'll get another one, okay? You know what? Let me just get this turned off. Okay, all right. Yes, yeah, I know. Let's just, you know what? Forget Charlie. We're going to get you another one, a healthy one. I don't think Charlie was healthy. I think that's the problem. Charlie wasn't healthy at all. We're going to get you a healthy one. Let's just go right now. Come on, I'll get my purse. I'll get my coat. Mom. Oh, what's that look on your face? What are you giving me that look for, honey?
Mom.
What?
My hamster died.
Your hamster died. Yeah, they do that, sweetie. You know, we talked about this when you got the hamster. Remember how we said sometimes they don't last very long? Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's a little bottom.
Yeah, that's what they do, and they get stiff. Yeah, you probably noticed that. Yeah, we'll take care of it. I'll have your dad take care of it. I don't want to touch him. It's not a big deal, sweetheart. It's not a big deal.
Charlie, he used to.
I know. Charlie did a lot of stuff. And remember, we talked about this when we were at the pet store. Hamsters, they come and go. They're like a dime a dozen. So it's not a big deal. You're going to be fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I'll never get another hamster as long as I live.
Oh, well, hopefully you'll rethink that, sweetheart. Hopefully you'll just rethink that. Oh, man.
Mom.
What now? Oh, my gosh. What now? What?
Okay. My hamster died. Charlie, my hamster.
You know what? Didn't we just talk about this? You take no responsibility for things. Look at this. Who puts your clothes away every day? You take no responsibility for anything. No wonder he died. I saw you in there with him. You were not. This just is so irritating to me.
I fed him and I watered him.
You did not. You
I
did not
take care of Charlie.
This is your fault.
I took care of Charlie.
This is your fault, and you know it.
I hate you.
You can hate me all you want. I hate you too.
Mom.
Oh, hi, honey.
No.
Yeah. Hi.
You know Charlie?
Yeah, I know Charlie. Charlie, that rodent you have in your room.
No, Charlie.
Yeah.
He died.
Yeah.
I just found him. He's in the room. He's laying there.
Yeah.
Just like he was laying.
Okay. Can you take these back to your room when you go, and then you can take care of that. Just wrap him in here. Just wrap them in there. That would be great. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and don't put those on your bed. Hang them up, sweetheart. You need to hang them up. Yeah, that's a good girl. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Charlie's dead.
Yeah, and Charlie, when you wrap him up, make sure he gets into the trash. That would be great. Okay. All right. Go ahead, honey. Everything's good. Go.
Mom.
Oh, honey. Hi.
Mom.
Oh,
The hamster died.
yeah.
I'm just in the room.
Oh, honey, that's so hard. I loved that hamster.
I named him Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie's
Charlie.
dead.
And you had
We're not going to flush him in the toilet like the fish, are we?
No,
Okay.
sweetie. No, we'll take care of what's going to happen. But right now.
Oh, Charlie's gone.
Yeah, Charlie's gone. Oh, honey, that is so hard. It's hard. It's hard. Oh, something like this happens.
Mom, make it better. Make it better. You got to do something. Charlie's dead.
Yeah, Charlie's dead. And that's really hard. I love Charlie so
I love
much.
Charlie.
You were so good with Charlie, too.
See,
You
with
were.
her eyes looking at me.
Yeah.
I'll never do it again.
When you're ready, we'll decide what's best for parting with Charlie. And we're going to get through this together. We are. You're not alone. You're not alone.
You'll be there. Come on.
Yes. In fact, we're going to be there right now together. Let's go right now, and we'll take care of it. Little Charlie.
Okay, Mom. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So again, I think the premise of these videos and is that we can, depending on our perspective in the moment, depending on our empathy and compassion around the moment, depending on positive intent, a lot of the skills and powers will then reflect our response, be reflective of our response. And the idea that oftentimes if we can just be with, that's enough. In many of these videos, the idea of coaching is to just be with and acknowledge. Be with and acknowledge, to soothe the moment, and to get folks through. So lots more resources, lots of free resources on the website, lots of stuff on Facebook, especially with what's been happening with COVID. They've been super responsive. Lots of visual supports here, also on YouTube. Lots more videos and supports. So thank you for being here. We did it. You did it. Go forth knowing you are brilliant. And thank you for being here. Thanks for staying longer.